Howdy, and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio. And we are back once again with the erudite, informational, and always entertaining MK Davis. But before we get to that, I'd first like to say happy holidays and Thanksgiving. As we are recording right now, it is Thanksgiving. MK already feasted and is not completely gone into a coma as a result of L-tryptophan overdose from the turkey. I have not eaten yet, and I have lots of coffee in me. So I'm ready to go. Everybody that responded to my YouTube community tab post, really appreciate you guys. You'll notice that your names are on the associate producers list at the beginning of the show, which I do for anybody that actually sends in a donation. You get your name on that list because I really, really appreciate it. And thanks to the wonderful people that responded, I actually am getting to have a Thanksgiving dinner. Woohoo. All other notes are that thank you for being here. Don't forget to hit that like button and please subscribe. Don't forget that I also have a channel on Rumble, which does not have identical content. Sometimes the videos that I put up here are on Rumble a day or two or even 3 days in advance. And sometimes I put up a different version on Rumble because they'll let me get away with things that you can't on YouTube. So it would behoove you all to go over and sub my Rumble channel. I already told everybody, and I'm serious about it. Once I get to 5,000 subs over there, I'm going to start live streaming. That's when you're going to see Q&As, live stream, all that kind of fun stuff. But I'm not going to be doing it on YouTube. So that's up to you guys. If you want to see it happen, get over there, sub. Meanwhile, let's get back to what we're here for. The amazing MK Davis back again. We were recently looking through some of his video from, as you guys may recall, we had him on with his 2008 expedition where he caught 2 different Bigfoot on video. And at this time, it looks like in the 2012 expedition, they had more stuff happen. So we're here to not only talk about that, but we're also going to bring up when he went on an expedition that he maybe shouldn't have, but didn't get killed, to the cave of SHAMPE. So yeah, welcome to the show, MK.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Before we get into all that, the last show I had Ron Moorhead on, and we were talking about dangerous Don Monroe and his numerous calamities. And Ron mentioned that when he was out there at Lovelock Cave with you guys, that he actually saw Don go falling off about an 80-foot cliff, bounced off some boulders, landed on the ground, got right up like nothing happened. And then you brought up something that you got actual video of too. You want to bring that up?
Yeah, when we were in Death Valley, it's about dark 30, and we were going across this very, very thin ridge. When I'm talking about thin, I'm talking about not much bigger than your feet. And it's straight down on either side. Well, one side was more straight down than the other, but they were both pretty steep.
But if you go off, you're not going to be stopping immediately. You're going down.
No. You would be rolling out there for quite a while. And I managed to make it across without falling and turned around, and Don's done gone down to all fours. And I done seen Don fall already. a couple of times, and I just did not want to see it again. I said, Don, please, please, let me help you. He didn't want my help. Didn't want, just leave him alone. I was making him nervous. So I turned around to leave and get away from him, and I heard him fall. And I heard his ribs crack.
Oh, God.
And he cracked 2 ribs. He fell on them right there on that crest of that thing. And I ran back out there and said, let me hold your hand to keep you from sliding down this thing. And when about that time on the video, you can see the camera kind of swung, and you could see the angle and everything, the empty space beneath him. It's pretty scary.
Crawl it, crawl it. Hold on, Don. Lay down if you have to.
I'm over.
You're not here yet, though.
Oh yeah, I'm fine. Don't worry about me.
A lot of rocks there. Keep your knees dead center.
Put some knee pads in our bag. Put some knee pads in our bag.
Yeah, for sure.
Hand bags like Ken has, hand things. And
Yeah. We won't come back this way, though.
I hope not.
Don, don't just try to rise up. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't talk. I have me nervous.
I can, please,
All right.
Don.
Don't talk, please.
Okay, I'm coming back this way. He fell. Don, stay there. Stay there.
I'm all right. Just don't. If you may break to the rest of a minute, I gotta get a little bit of rest. I can't do this.
Just lay here. I'm gonna hold your hand.
Don't do that.
I won't want you falling,
Please
Don.
don't. I won't fall.
You're on the
Please
edge.
let go. I'm not on the edge. I'm okay.
Okay.
I just need to not. Don't talk to me. I'll be all right.
All right. I don't know if I can get back up.
He managed to get on the cross when he finally got his ribs, stabilized.
God.
Uh,
Put it in D&D terms. Don Monroe makes his saving roll yet again.
Yeah, he just to imagine, and that's why I say his type of person and personality is there's very few and far between, because he's a true explorer. He's self-driven.
Mm.
He's not doing it for money. If he made some money, that would be good, but he spends all of his time and energy and money looking for somewhere else to go, look for some mystery. And I appreciate that about him.
Oh, that's very cool. And he ain't no spring chicken either. How old is Don Monroe now?
It varies.
It varies.
Yeah. Yeah. When he was pretty old at times. When we were walking out in Death Valley, he was old. He was 88, something like that. But when he got in a fight on the Indian reservation, he was no more than 60.
So let me rephrase that. Chronologically, theoretically, how old is he?
Officially,
Yeah,
I think
officially.
he's hitting about 90.
That's what I was thinking. But he can still fight like he's 60 something. So
Oh yeah,
don't piss him off.
sure. As a matter of fact, he's got a tooth knocked out right now.
Damn it. Yeah. Yeah. If we had him in a cage match, and it was Bob Gimlin versus Don Monroe, I'd put my money on Don.
Don knows a lot of tricks. He's shown me a few of them. I hadn't had occasion to use them, but I know that they work.
All right. Well, getting on to the next part of the show. Besides dangerous Don Monroe, next thing we're going to talk about, like I already mentioned here at the top of the show, was the second expedition to Bluff Creek. And recently, somebody was digging through that video, and they sent you a screen capture timestamp and went, "Hey, this looks like a hand over here." So
Yeah.
then you had something else to look at. The other thing is the NBTV put out a version of this where they had a short clip from someone else at the beginning of it, just filming across the river. And hey, NBTV guys, there's a Bigfoot in that piece of video that you added on.
Today is Friday, July the 16th, 2010. And this is the Patterson-Gimlin film site here on Bluff Creek as it looks today. This shelf that you see here is where the creek used to be, and it's up on that level there, right back here where we're looking, where the animal was walking. Looks quite different today. It's a very nice day, no clouds in the sky, pretty warm. But this is it, this is the film site.
But let's get back to the video that we can actually attribute to someone. And first of all, MK, when you were coming up the hill to that one camp area where you used to be able to like drive into, that's as far as you can drive in there, right?
Yeah, at one time you could drive all the way down and park your car right there where the scene was that had the hand,
Right.
under the cedar tree. You could bring your car right there, but now they've chisel plowed the road, let it wash, and it's become, you have to hike in there.
Yeah.
Now we found quite a bit of sign in there, pretty deep tracks, quite a number of them. Now I told you this road had been plowed under. It had been deep plowed, and it was very soft where formerly it had been hard packed. So, and you see this slide here. We had problems with this slide the last time I was there in 2009. And now, of course, the slides just done become, too much. You couldn't clear it out. There's some more bear sign. Now, you see where this is washed out? This is a direct result of the deep plowing that they did. They just loosened the soil where any water coming across would cut into it. And you see it. And it's got that black sand under there, which is, a shale sand, which is long known to contain gold, actually. So it's no longer accessible by vehicle. We had quite a time getting down there on foot and crossing that thing. And of course, I noticed up at the upper end of it there was a trail where animals had to modify their path, to go around there, and it was kind of just took them all into one spot there. And there were some very deep tracks along that trail going up that hill on the other side. And I think that I'll show a few of them here if you can see them good. There's one there, and I don't know how easy this would be for you to pick out, but it was easy enough to see live. Some of these are better than others, but in all the times that I've been down to the Bluff Creek area, see there's one right there, I've never seen as many the evidence with as far as footprints go of they would seem to be everywhere down there. They had been left alone pretty much. It's not many people had been in there. There's one right there going up that embankment on the other side. It pressed into pretty deep into the soft soil. There's another. And then we're on our way from that point on down to the creek. I think there's another washout beginning. This is where an older road came into the Bat Box Road from days of yore, and evidently the Bat Box Road came at a later time. This was a much older road, and it had suffered some damage, and they moved the road out and formed the Bat Box Road. But I believe that's probably the road that overlooks the film site from up on high. It goes in that direction, and that's the opening leading to the bat boxes. And the bat boxes, of course, is just simply that, bat boxes that the Forest Service had put up there.
The bat boxes,
they've been pulled down by who knows what or who. The road that's in the creek bed, going down that way. There's one that's been screwed out of the ground. It's been, it had a coupling. Heavy steel pipe, but screwed out. Then there's another one that's been bent over. You'll see it. That looks like a bear track. It's on some ferns and stuff that are growing. There's one that's been bent over toward the creek, and not likely to be done with a vehicle, but substantial amount of strength it took. Now there were some tracks alongside that bent over bat box pole, and here's one of them right here, and another, and they were pressed pretty deeply into the soil. I couldn't anywhere near press a track that deep myself.
Yeah, you're not in my way.
There's a little bit of video of them, and the trackway kind of made its way on, out toward the creek and onto some harder stuff. But there's one. You see how deep it is. Just look at the opposite side.
Drop this back and get a creek.
All right.
You want a whip?
Video.
Let me do the whip.
Yeah, please. What are you getting out of that? 7? 6.5?
6.5. Something like that. Say a solid 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And there's some more depressions.
Yeah, I see them.
I don't know how to get.
Well, I mean, it's one of them things. If you do a little research, you'll find out that the whole area has been kind of up for becoming a World Heritage Site, and it's been on the table for that. And in order to become a World Heritage Site, everything has to be completely wild.
Right.
And if it becomes a World Heritage Site, then it becomes the property, not the I'm not sure exactly how they work that, but it's the responsibility of the United Nations, not the U.S. Forest Service.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what they were trying to get that accomplished or what, but if you go through these little towns like Happy Camp and other towns in that area, they have signs in the windows that say no monument. And that's what they're talking about. They call it a monument whenever it becomes a World Heritage Site.
Mm-hmm.
They say no monument. Nobody wanted it. They're just trying to force it in on people. And I've seen that across this country, not just up there. They've had a kind of a, I hate to use the word scandal, but the government was trying to force people to sell their land eminent domain style so that they could make a bear refuge. And the farmers didn't want to give up some of their prime Delta hunting land. I mean, farming land
Right.
to become something, that they bring up congressmen and stuff down here.
Since
Let
when
hunt
do
bears.
Two questions? Since when do bears need a refuge? And B, they have more food supply where there's farmers' fields than there is where there's woods.
You got a point there. A bear goes wherever a bear wants to. And
Yeah,
they
mainly
they
where the
range.
food is. And if you got big fields full of food, that's where they're going to go anyway. So,
They range far and wide.
yep.
It was kind of just a excuse, really.
Mm-hmm.
And they have all that land locked up and put it under such strict, rules and regulations that the average person can't go on them anymore.
Yep.
And so that you see that from sea to shining sea. Well, I appreciate wanting to put a well-known site, that's got special qualities to it and take care of it. But
Sure, make it a
I don't-
national forest or a national
Yeah,
park or something. Doesn't have to have any jurisdiction from the UN.
those people don't know squat about what's going on over here,
Nope.
and they go, their membership changes.
Yep.
You get a bad character in there in that mix. and he'll
There's
be-
plenty of bad characters in that mix, and it's a constant because they're not controlling membership by who's good and who's bad. It's
They
who's
sure
in
are.
charge.
And they'll be trying to tell you what to do
Exactly.
with the land that's over here. It seems kind of crazy, but
Yep. Seems
I
counterintuitive
think
to
that's
me.
why they did that. I think that's why they made it. They were trying to get it to go back wild. Where all the access roads were shut down and made
Yeah.
impassable.
Well, you just declare it a state forest or national forest or something. Accomplishes the same thing. Don't need the UN involved.
It's sacred land there anyway. Sacred Indian land.
Mm-hmm.
The Indians were so sacred that they formed human chains to try to prevent equipment from coming in there and cutting the wood. So it's been a little bit of a battle back and forth for many years now, trying to preserve those areas there that they consider to be sacred.
Then give the land to the tribe and let them deal with it. So getting back to the Bluff Creek video, you got the you're the one that filmed the piece of video that's got the apparent hand sticking out from underneath a tree. Was that when you were first walking in there that you filmed that?
Yeah, I didn't know I'd filmed it. I mean, I had gotten an email from a viewer alerting me to that effect, and he gave me the timestamp and everything. So I went over there and I was, whoa, It does look like a hand.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, yeah, there are people who require, you know, lots more proof than what somebody else might. Well, why would a hand be there without the rest of the body? Well, probably not, but it's under a tree.
Well, to me, it looks like the hand is the only part of it that's sticking out in the sun. If you look at the distribution of that one sun ray across the ground, that's going across his fingers and they're lit up. The rest of them isn't. But if you look carefully, there appears to be an arm connected to that hand going back around that tree.
Yeah, I brightened it up. I could see that.
Looks like there's actually two of them. There's another one that's laying to his, it would be a picture left, the right of object with hands sticking up from underneath tree. Looks like there's another one there. So
those cedar trees provide excellent cover.
Uh-huh.
And when something gets up in one of those cedar trees, it's hard to pick them out.
Yep.
And in this case, I could find parts of them, a dark figure, maybe two besides the hand. But you can't tell for sure.
No.
You can't provide that
can't be 100%
100% proof.
But you got, you got 5% of the body, i.e. the hand sticking out. So there's a dead giveaway.
Well, you think that a hand's just going to be there without the rest of them?
Yeah.
That's sillier than.
Well, Bigfoot ran away and left his hand lying there on the ground. He was in such haste to hide from you guys.
This is the scene as was pointed out to me by the viewer in an email. He said if you look over to the left, you'll see a Bigfoot's hand sticking out from under a cedar tree. And this is that raw image right here. Captured. You can blow it up. What do you think? Now, that's intriguing. Let me go and move this over to a imaging program of mine. There we go. Now let me do a little filtering. That brightened it up quite a bit. Let's see what else we can see there now. I see a couple of things. I see something behind the brush in this area right here, and something behind the brush right here. As a matter of fact, let's see if we can boost contrast and the brightness. And you can see a little more of it right there. Something dark back behind there. Something dark right in there. I've got this is that same scene, and I've put it through a deblurring program. And it shows the same things. Sometimes different things you do to a photo, it might be good for one particular thing you're looking at, but to the expense of other things. So you have to kind of play around with it and use different filters. So the question is, do we think, or do you think, do I think, that this is a Bigfoot hand at Bluff Creek? And let me tell you a little story about this particular place, because I recognized it when it was pointed out to me. This is probably the last place that you can take a vehicle. You can park it, and our vehicles are down there. You can't. Our vehicles are parked up the road because they cut the road, and you can't get all the way down to the creek anymore. But this was the old road down all the way down to the creek. As a matter of fact, the first time I went down there, Don Monroe went down in a Dodge Dynasty. And that's just how good the road was. But the Forest Service tore it up. They chisel plowed it and then got it to washing and let it go. So now you have to walk in there from that last washout. So we walked in there, but one night we drove in there back before all the chisel plowing. We drove in there, and when we pulled right up here, we would have been right in this area right here. And there's that cedar tree. Something hit the hood of our vehicle. And when we got out, and I looked, and it was a film canister. From the days of film. Film at that time has gone into almost no use. Some people still use it, but it's rare. And it just bounced off as if it were thrown from somewhere. Well, we scratched our heads, but it was at night and we couldn't see up through there. So we didn't consider this to be a place where they would lay up for you. But now I'm thinking about it again, and maybe it is. Maybe this is one of those places where they just lay up inside of this thick cover and watch you go by. Like right here, and go. There's the hand. There's something behind it right up in here. I don't know how big it is, but it's one part of it right here you can see. And then another over here. Wow. Go back to the raw image. You can't see much up inside that thing, can you? And at night it would be almost impossible. That thing was probably sitting in there and at night and through that film canister. There's no other people down there. And certainly they wouldn't be hiding up in a cedar tree. How about that? I don't know what that is. Maybe that's something too, I don't know. I'm telling you, I got to do a better job at watching what's around me. I just walk right on through there, me and Ken Iddens, on our way down to the creek. Creek's just right there. well, one thing I've done is I've proven that I can overlook something that's really obvious when you look at it later on, once having been pointed out. So having more than one set of eyes is a big plus. Okay. How many individuals might be back there? I don't know. If there is any back there. If this is a hand. Certainly looks like one. But I just walked down this little old road like Andy Griffith and Opie, with whistling a merry tune. Walk right on by that thing. If there was a Bigfoot back there, I bet it laughed or chuckled. Probably made its day. Well, anyway, that's what I wanted to show you. And you know, and these things are well worth reviewing, and I appreciate anyone who take a second look at it and tell me what they see, because that's Bigfoot country, and I very rarely have been down there where there's been no sign. There's always been some signs that are obvious that Bigfoot's been there. But you don't really think you're going to see a hand sticking out from under a cedar tree, but there it is.
And this is typical of what we see out in the field too. If there's one that's on camera, it's almost inevitable. There's going to be another one there somewhere, whether you caught it or not. And they like to clump up like that. They'll use it to break up their outline. I've gotten them on video before where there was 3 little ones that were behind this fallen tree. They're all clumped up, so it just looked like this black mass. But one of them, the really little one, apparently didn't know any better. He was looking right at me as I zoomed in on him. So there's this black mass with these 2 little eyes, like, you know, like, what is that? And then I just zoomed back out again because I realized, like, oh yeah, there's something over there lying on the ground. It probably ain't happy I'm filming them.
Well, I mean, the eternal skeptic might say, "Well, how do you know those are Bigfoot eyes?" You know,
because his 2 parents were on the other side of the tree that they were laying next to, piled on top of each other, and you can see both of their faces. So yeah, makes me think those are probably eyes.
Showing you the Super X. Here we are, August 2019, when we were up here with Caveman Yazzie and Kevin Lang from the Glag Saga. We had gotten, the 2 of us went over to explore this other area while they were busy. And here's what we found as we found it.
Look at that. How's it look from below? You hear that, folks? Wow. Oh, we're coming to check it out.
This one's still on the ground and pushed over. Or fell over. And this one is pushed over. Or fell over.
Making a magical structure. They just happen to all go right in between the fork of that tree.
Yeah.
Of all the places they could fall, right into the fork of that tree.
Oh, it's totally coincidental, just like that huge teepee we're going to go check out.
Yeah, yeah. Coincidence happens naturally.
So of course, since then they've taken down that X. It isn't there anymore. And I was looking at some comparison video for that we had shot there afterwards.
that I was gonna make a clip out of. And while I was doing that, a friend called me, and I had spent about 20 minutes talking to them on the phone, and I had this one particular section of the video up on the screen, the one we're looking at right now. And I started looking at it going, is that a face back there? So I went back a little ways on the video and started taking a closer look. And the first part of it that you're going to notice is where I'm zooming in past where the X is. And what we're trying to do is take a verification shot that the object that Blaine Tyler spotted wasn't there. And this apparently was over on the other side, a little ways away from the object that we were trying to spot there. Robin McCrae took a look at it, and she thinks these are two right here. And she put in the little dots where the eyes are to let everybody know. So anyway, coming up, you guys will be able to take a look at this frame. We're going to be showing the whole section in regular speed and in slow motion. I noticed when I backed up and started looking, I didn't see this right away. I just went, what's with the weird brown blob over there? And I was trying to see this stuff with my naked eye. I could see it. And then when I had the camera on and was trying to zoom in on it, I wasn't sure what I was getting because the camera screen was so little and I'm shaking all over the place. And so I don't know if I'm getting anything or not. And then when I go back and look at it, well, here's the second part of the video toward the end of it where I turn completely around and zoom in. And what's behind me? Well, not just that one, but it seems like there's several more there. Unfortunately, the autofocus on the camera being what it is, it tried to focus in on the branch in front of the guys I was trying to get a look at. So obviously with that, between that and the teeny flip out screen that I'm looking at, I'm not seeing what's on the video, which is pretty interesting looking. And there's a little guy right there. You can see his eyes. He's in just the wrong spot, so the camera's nailing him. Other likely suspects around him, not so much, because again, they're behind this branch that's being unfortunately zoomed in on. But as you guys watch the video in slow motion, you can take a look at all the other objects around him. I've got it stabilized. You can see if any of them are moving around or not, and make your own decision as to what's going on here. But here we go. Michael Matt in the background, wood knocking for some reason, and Aaron Lane Moppet. Here we go. What's that right there? Oh, didn't stay on it very long. We'll be slowing that down. We'll look at it again. Again, there's suspects number 1 and potentially 2. And then we've got what appears to be the little guy behind me with potentially several other relatives sitting back there, keeping an eye on me from behind, watching what I'm doing. Close up of the same one. You can see the other anomalous objects around him. Now here we go again. Face or whatever it is. And there's the double big rocks. So now I'm like completely behind where I was standing. What's behind me? Well, let's take a look. We got it really slowed down now. There's the tree trunk. There's one of them. And going back to normal speed and the end of the video clip. Okay, there you go. Hope you enjoyed it. And, make your own call on what you think it might be.
Well, I just wanted to illustrate the difficulty
Yeah.
of getting hard proof is what people call it. What we got there when I filmed a friend's phone, he did the filming of an encounter, and I filmed his phone. And I called it in my title a soft encounter because it didn't show a Bigfoot, or at least it wasn't obvious. It didn't leap out at you, but he saw it and heard it. It's why he cut his phone on. And he filmed behind him as he walked back to camp. It scared him enough that he pulled out a gun. So if you actually standing before a Bigfoot and he's unquestionably a Bigfoot there, that's how I call that a hard encounter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything's there for putting Bigfoot in the books if it were presented right. Soft encounter, you know, so it's different, but it's not nothing. It's something, you know.
It's a Class B.
Yeah. It did. No one was hurt. You know, he was kind of shook up, but got over it.
And like you told me before this had even happened with him, Don Monroe had walked up the same hill and said he saw 3 of them watching him as he was going up the hill.
He did. He said they were following him. He saw them behind him.
And perhaps just as interestingly, like I told you earlier today, as soon as I got this video from you, I forwarded it to my #1 can spot any Bigfoot within 50 if it's on video guy, Blaine Tyler. And he actually sent back screen captures this morning. Let's take a look at that right now.
All right.
So, yeah, again, nothing's definitive here. The one definitely looks like a face. Blaine complained about it too. He goes, "Well, you're looking at a video of a cell phone screen, and when he was filming it originally with the cell phone, he's going too fast. It's blurring the images, and it's kind of dark anyway. So trying to pick much of anything out of it that's going to be definitive would be pretty much impossible." But Blaine did point out a couple things, like this one shadow. He pointed out, hey, it's got a reflection. The light is shining off the top of the shadow. Shadows do not reflect light off the top of them. Black objects with greasy hair reflect the light off the top of them. And not only that, but it actually looks like it's going toward a bluish tint, which is even more indicative that it's hair, not anything else. And there's a couple other ones in there. One of them you can almost make out the face pretty well. So from Blaine's analysis and from me taking a look at it, basically, if he would have gone a little bit slower, and maybe we had the original video, not a recording of somebody's cell phone screen, we might have been able to pick out some more stuff out of that one.
Well, I'm sure that's one reason I wanted to film it. It's I'm supposed to get the original, but I never did get it from him. His original video was better to your eyes.
Yeah.
But once you have passed it through two lenses and two different, chips, it loses quite a bit, so it was just the best we could do at the
When
time.
Eric went back down there, and something was breaking brush and then followed him back up. So let's just hear it in Eric's own words. Come go with me to Bluff Creek.
Don Monroe says that he sat down, laid out bagels before he left out down here to see what we find. I see. Oh, there they are. Bagels are still there. Yeah, it already cracked. That's why I yelled and backed up.
Yeah.
I got movement in the woods and I'm a little bit spooked. That's me talking in the radio. I didn't realize it was still on. I was filming Don's bagels and I heard branches. How far away are you, bud? I'm at the bottom. I'm looking at Don's bagels and something was crashing in the woods up on the hill there. I think it's all right. I'm just a little spooked by it because it was literally only like 20 yards away. I got your gun in hand while I'm walking, so anyways, I'm on my way up. And then I flip. If we hear shots, we'll come hobbling down to you as best we can. You hear that clip unload, shit's hitting the fan. Hey, bear! Hey, bear! At this point, I forgot that the video was recording. And I was gonna flip it around. Alright. I'm gonna walk with this recording me now because I don't know if we got something going on there.
Maybe we can see if there's shadows behind you.
I'll play the continuous one. Bird just flew up there. I'm gonna flip the camera. That's what I'm trying to do. Hang on. I'm not very good with this video stuff yet. Yeah, there we go. Alright, I'm gonna film behind me while I walk because I'm a little bit paranoid because there's something up here breaking brush. Could be something small, could be a mountain lion. Could be a big ass bear. Could be a Sasquatch, who knows? But I started looking around right here because right at this creek drop, there's a whole shelf right there. Where if you walked up a ways, you could walk flat like the trail all the way back down.
Well, I'll be getting a tetanus shot.
For what? Oh?
Those rusty bastards. Yeah.
As you can see, I wasn't dilly-dallying.
No.
JS.
Well, there you have it. Don't know for sure what it was that was trailing Eric back up the hillside, but
hopefully at some point in the future you can get him to cop up the original so you can get a better look at it. Now that we're pretty much about 90% convinced it's worth taking a better look at with a better version of it.
Well, I can tell you now, down there where he went to get, he went to get a backpack. There was a mother bird raising Cain constantly, and we found why, because one of her babies was out of the nest and on the ground. In that area, that's not the place to be hanging around if you're scared, because that's going to bring in some things. So from Bigfoot to bears to
any kind of scavenger that figures they can get an easy meal.
Yeah, it's not a good place to hang out if you're scared. You could hang out there and see if you could get the world's best Bigfoot videos if you got the nerve.
He's talking about you, Blaine. He's talking about you, Blaine. It's a challenge.
They're coming into to that sound. They're gonna hear it. And they're gonna come into it.
Yeah.
And that mama bird was just constantly.
Well, you know how mama birds get when their babies fall out of the nest and onto the ground.
Yeah, and they can't help themselves. So it's something's probably going to eat the little bird.
Quick anecdote. I was in Lake City, Minnesota, which is right in a wide spot on the Mississippi River, which they call Lake City, home of a supposed sea monster, too. And I do mean supposed. But about 3 blocks from the shore, there's a glass shop. And I was going down to visit one of my friends. And as I got down there, I noticed there was a mama goose with a bunch of little goslings. And she was wah, 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 down the grate of the sewer. And I went, uh-oh. So I went inside, grabbed my buddy, and I said, I think we got some goslings in the sewer. We got a big pry bar. He's like, yep, comes out. We pried the top off. He jumped down into the sewer and started picking them up and handing them up to me. And I'm putting them on the ground. And Mama knew exactly how many babies she had.
She was counting
until we
them.
got every last one out of there. She wasn't moving. And as soon as the last one came out, she gave us a couple of happy honks and then walked off down the sidewalk, keeping in mind she's three blocks with this whole train of babies following her. I don't know where the hell she was coming from, but at least she was heading toward the lake. But it was interesting to me how she was not going to leave that spot until she got her babies out of there somehow, and that she knew exactly how many there were. And this is a goose. She had like 18. There were a ton of them. I don't even remember exactly, but
Well, animals are pretty smart. They have some things that are built in called instinct, and then they have thinking ability too. They're able to make decisions, things like that. It's humbling sometimes. My seat's trying to dump me, I guess.
no, don't fall over. We still got more of the show to go.
It's humbling to watch them. I've got a game cam that I keep out, and I watch the antics of the animals. I'm amazed at how smart they are. Fox, I've got a little dish there, and I put a little bit of gravy train in, and this fox comes up there and pees in the dish, and he goes off without ever trying to eat anything, but nothing else would eat it. And then he comes around later on, he comes up there at another night and poops in it.
And this was fast too. It's like he ran up, takes a dump, and then runs away fast to drive-by shitting.
Yeah, it was just real fast, just like but that's not instinct.
You got to send that video over so everybody else can see that. Okay.
I will. I'll send it over to you.
Everybody wants to see a fox doing a drive-by
shitting.
Should
see it.
How about this other peculiar piece of video you got that's got a big fat bobcat on it?
It's a bobcat that's way oversized, and it's got only a few little spots on it. It's mostly tawny, like a cougar would be.
Right.
And it kind of makes a person think that somehow, some kind of way, somewhere in this cat's heritage might have been what they call a panther, a Florida panther, a cougar, southeast style. And I remember people, coon hunting and stuff, and they'd get a cat up a tree, and they call them a souped up wildcat because the cat was extraordinarily large. And they didn't know why, but it seemed to be of a different type of cat. Most bobcats around here are small.
Yeah.
This thing right here is muscular. It could take a deer down.
That kind of, that's on the biggie side for a bobcat.
Yeah.
It's not unheard of for bobcats to breed with house cats, which makes me wonder if one of them could breed successfully with a mountain lion.
I'm sure if there were some around, and nature calls, it's for the sake of not dying out, that they'll step across those lines. Bears do it.
Yeah.
They used to swear that they didn't, but they know now that they do. A polar bear and a grizzly will produce offspring if they're in a
Pizzly.
bind.
Yeah. Pizzlies. Yeah,
Yeah.
they've actually shot a couple of them and got the skulls and went, what the hell is this? And do the DNA work and it's a crossbreed. Now in Montana, our local cryptid here in Montana, they claim it's a cross between a bear and a deer, so it looks like a grizzly, but it's got a big rack on its head, and they call that a beer.
Okay.
Just joking, but yeah, there's actually like T-shirts and hats and stuff around here that show the grizzly with the big rack of horns on it. Just says beer.
You know, the ability to test DNA has resulted in a lot of surprises, and they've had to go back and correct things what they had said at an earlier date.
Yeah.
Because the DNA told off on the story, you know.
That's right.
And they said, well, Homo sapiens cannot mix with Neanderthals. They were simply too dissimilar.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, now with sophisticated testing, they know that most people, if you're not from Africa, you have about 4% Neanderthal.
Yep.
In your system.
And as Dr. Melba Ketchum says, the DNA doesn't lie.
And so they say they attribute that toward our ability to survive cold. They say it's because of that Neanderthal, that trace amounts of Neanderthal.
Yep.
And then Denisovans. The Denisovan genes go all around to the Polynesia, you know, Southeast Asia. They find the Denisovans, and the Denisovans were giants. They were huge.
And interestingly, the highest concentration of the Denisovan genome that they've found so far tends to be in the people that live in the regions around the Himalayas and the Karakoram range in that area. And they think it has reason there's more of it there is because they had a better genetic makeup for being at high altitude and putting up with cold.
That makes sense. But they found a cave over there. That's what they named them after. It's in Denisovan. Some people call it Denisovan.
Mm-hmm.
But they found a cave over there, and they found a little finger joint, and they got it analyzed, and they said, well, this is a new person, a new human, Denisovan. And then they kept digging, and they found a Neanderthal remains. And they kept digging, and they found human and Homo sapien remains. They were all living in the same cave.
Yeah, subject 13, as it turned out, was a hybrid. It was half Neanderthal, half Denisovan. So not only they figured people could have been living in that cave for tens of thousands of years, so it could have changed hands between different kinds of humans. But where you got Denisovan crossbred with Neanderthal, apparently they were teaming up at some point.
Yeah, apparently they were, and I think science has become a little more open than it used to be, because it's bad enough to have barriers to cross, but it's worse to make your own.
Yeah.
And they were making their own barriers that they couldn't cross without telling off on themselves, you know.
Oh well.
So they gave that up and said, well, this is what we found, and they became transparent about it.
Yeah, they
so
need to
now
be intellectually
we know
honest.
A little more about it.
Got to be intellectually honest when they make dumb mistakes like Piltdown Man and Nebraska Man and yeah, you guys have blown it really bad in the past. Your credibility's kind of low. Maybe you need to eat some crow and quit acting like you know everything.
Those were all bad rabbit holes.
Yep, and they screwed up bad, and they are not 100% successful in getting the truth out there. They blow it a lot too. So everything they say is not gospel. Don't take it as that way. Science is a methodology for looking for the truth. It is not the truth in and of itself. Well, one thing I want to bring up from it before we jump ahead to 2019 then is footprints in the soft, muddy ground. And MK did us all a big service. And, nobody studied the Patterson-Gimlin film more than him and knows exactly how Patty walks. And he has the additional virtue of not having arches in his feet. MK has flat feet. So between having flat feet like Bigfoot and knowing how to walk like Bigfoot, he did us all a huge service and did a little test right there at Bluff Creek with the same strata and walked through this kind of little soft spot and left some tracks in there. And he walked back the other direction, left some tracks there. And lo and behold, when you look at it, it appears they have a mid-tarsal joint in them. So what's the deal, MK? Are you actually part Bigfoot, or how did you do that?
Not that I'm aware of, but I haven't been DNA tested.
Okay.
I wanted to take advantage of having that exact same substrate, because if you look at it with a microscope, it's little platelets. It's shale sand,
Mm-hmm.
and they tend to be strong. They bind up together. They don't just roll out from under the foot like beach sand would. So I wanted to see if that was one of the factors in the production of that hump in the middle. So when I walked, I got Ken to film me, and when I walked, almost every one of my tracks, as long as I was walking like Patty and did the heel strike and then foot roll over, it produced that hump in the middle.
Right. Except for the ones where you purposely put your foot down flat.
If you put your foot down flat and lifted it straight up, then you had a flat track.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be like peg leg type.
Yeah. But again, like hardly anybody on earth probably has really looked at the locomotion on that Patterson-Gimlin film as much as you have. So she's bringing her heel down first, doing the heel strike, and then rolling her foot to keep that weight in the middle of her body centered, because she's heavy. You can't be sticking your legs way out.
She forms a fulcrum,
Mm-hmm.
Place of she has to hinge over. So you go from out front to the center and then to the out back, and that's a fulcrum. And she has to do that in a certain way to stay efficient. So if you overextend, then you're going to have a hard time reaching that fulcrum with your push off.
Right.
You'll be shy of it, and then next thing you know, you have to struggle to get over. She walks extremely efficiently, so everything is natural there in that film. And if you walk like that on that substrate, no matter if you're flat-footed or not, you produce a hump in the middle. And it may be a combination of all of them with that shale sand, which I brought some of it home. I still have it I got it in an ice chest.
Cool.
So
you should transfer it to a bell jar at some point.
Compression testing and stuff.
The next morning, we headed back upstream, where I was eventually going to do some experiments with footprints in the original Bluff Creek type sand matrix. What I wanted to do when I went back up there to do those experiments was to try to copy or emulate the walking style of the Patterson Bigfoot, to see if it's the actual foot that causes this bend in the middle of the track, or is it the walking style? If it's the walking style, then I should be able to duplicate that particular type of track over and over again in the same type matrix or sand substrate. And then again, this type of style of walking produce that type of footprint in this substrate nearly every time.
Okay.
We'll do it again coming back.
Okay.
Keep recording. do it over and over again.
Okay. Let me zoom in here.
Even walking gradually.
Your last step that you did, that really good one, point to the center hump.
It just kind of tore up.
Right.
Another one right there.
Yeah.
Now watch this. It's gonna tore up gradually. You drive that heel and push with the ball, push off with the ball. You're gonna have that hump in the middle every time.
We good?
So there we have it. A bend in the middle foot. And I'm no Sasquatch.
Put her in a Ripley's Believe It or Not bell jar. You could sell samples to people, actual sand from the Patterson-Gimlin film site.
Well, I did sell some one time at a conference. I think they were a little short of money, and they had to pay the bigger guys. And so I saw that developing. So I told Don, I said, I have this. Let's some sandwich bags, and I sold them for like $2 a bag. Bluff Creek sand. Made enough money to get back home.
No, that's entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
Good job. So did we want to bring up any of that stuff from the 2019 trip, or do you want to just proceed on?
Well, the 2019 trip's fine. The 2019 trip was our mission was to get up to the lair. I mean, that was supposed to be it. It started out at Lovelock Cave. Everybody met there, and then we drove over to Bluff Creek. It's quite a drive. Went through Mount Lassen area, which is a hotbed for Bigfoot as well. A little town called Susanville. It's a town that I've always been jealous of. If I ever wanted to move to California, which is, it's hard to say that you want to nowadays, it's really high priced, but Susanville is a neat little town. And that's one of the fonder places I've been. Well, you go on across that, and you go to Redding, then go on over to Weaverville, and then you end up at Willow Creek, and go north, and you're at Bluff Creek, and so that's where we ended up. And then you got to drive way on back in the woods. You go to Orleans, go up what they call the IC Road. And it's spelled EYESEE. IC Road.
Did they name it in the winter?
Some people call it a go road, the go road, because it's from Gasquet to Orleans. That's the road that had so much controversy. And that's where they formed human chains.
Right.
They didn't want it built. They tried to build it down in the bed of Bluff Creek but floods kept washing it away, and so they moved it up to the ridge top. Or even now, there's no real purpose for it. It more than half the year it stays closed.
Right.
Once we got there, we decided we were going to go, we had to hike in. So we had to get all our stuff, and we were going to set up a secondary camp down at the creek, and then try to go from there to a third camp at the lair. And one of us after another developed our own problems that prevented it from happening. Dennis Guern got violently sick. I mean, he started throwing up And Don, you've got that. You've seen the video where I don't know what happened to him, but it had the appearance of being hoisted up and thrown down on his head. And he cut that ear so badly, it looked like cauliflower.
Yeah, we've shown that video before too, and yeah, that's just inexplicable. That does not look like somebody slipping and falling over. It looks like he got hoisted up, thrown through the air, and landed on his head.
I had chest pains, and Eric Smith became just anxious. You know, he wasn't from anywhere around that area, and he just became anxious. So you can see the handwriting on the wall there.
Yeah.
So we decided to go back and get our stuff and go back to the first camp. And if Bigfoot wanted to come to us, then we would do it that way. And so as it turned out, that did happen, because apparently a Bigfoot came through at night, and he shook the ground. He was so heavy.
God.
And Eric saw, Eric woke him up. He was sleeping in the back of his Subaru. And I looked out my little flap they give you for a window in the tent, and up the hill I could see flashes of light. I'm looking straight through the woods up through, the mountain is pretty steep right there going up, but looking up like that, and I could see light just here and there. So something happened, and I don't have an explanation for it, and some people might call it woo. I don't know. I know what, the gift of sight told me, that it was flashes of light.
Yeah.
I don't really believe there is such a thing as woo. I think that woo is simply unexplained realities.
Yeah.
It's one came through the camp because you could thump, 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 thump. So we're in Bigfoot territory.
Mm-hmm.
It's been known.
So
to
it
happen.
could have been a giant, but it was more likely just a Bigfoot.
That's what I figured.
That's what I would have went with at that point. Although, as I told you when you mentioned this story, the same damn thing happened to me and Johnny, where he was sleeping in his car and I was in my tent, and we heard something walk into camp. We were both awake. Thud, thud. And I could hear it, and I was wondering I'd never heard any impacts that damn heavy of anything. I had a draft horse run right past me. It wasn't anything compared to this. And Johnny, who was sleeping in the front seat of his car with his feet on the floorboard, he said his car shook each time those impacts, was putting its feet down, apparently. So, yeah, some of these boys are really, really big, apparently. You can make the damn ground shake.
Well, what happens to something that's that big as they make their leap from one leg to the other leg, and they reach those fulcrums, as they stretch out, that bone is being driven, the leg bone's being driven straight in.
Mm-hmm.
The entire weight of the whole entire animal, or the whole entire subject. I try to avoid the term animal because it's probably not what it is, but it gives a thunder strike, like a thud, and then it goes over that fulcrum again, does it again, drives it down. And it's enough weight there and enough mass, and that nothing gives, that the ground has to give.
Yep.
So it shakes it. You've seen the old Jurassic Park where that little glass of water is going.
Yeah. The water shaking.
It would
in the
have done
glass.
that. It would have done that night.
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah.
Same thing where me and Johnny were at. That definitely would have done the water glass shake trick. No question about that. That was really impressive. And like I said, I've had a draft horse run right next to me on the other side of a fence line before. You can feel the ground shake. It's loud as hell. And another time when I was out in the woods, I had a Bigfoot do the same damn thing, run past me so fast. By the time I turned around, he was already out of sight. I heard him go right behind me. And it felt just like a draft horse, except it was bipedal. It wasn't 4 legs coming down, it was 2. But that was nowhere near the impacts that this big sucker was putting down, apparently just walking through camp. So anyway, that's fairly terrifying. And yeah, so there's plenty of activity over there at Bluff Creek. But getting on to activity somewhere else, which is not Bigfoot. SHAMPE. You know, the Indians were forming a human chain to stop the people from getting in there to Bluff Creek. But this other tribe, they just put up actual chains, which did not stop MK.
Well, no, it didn't. I saw a video where a couple of Choctaw guys went back there, and they told the story of Champ or SHAMPE.
SHAMPE.
And I said, well, I would like to go back in there and listen to it duly recorded. So I did. It was a couple of miles back in there. This lady, I was up at the Naniwaya Mound, and it had not been in the possession of the Choctaws a whole long time. It used to belong to the state, and it was a state park there. And anybody could go back to Shamp's Cave back then. And they had pavilions back there and a bridge over the little river there. A little, it's really picturesque. And then they had Shamp's Cave, or Champagne's Cave. And I went back there, 2-mile hike by myself.
God. Back there, right? This wasn't like they were selling tickets and handing one out and going,
no,
here, MK, you can go back to Champagne's Cave.
I probably should not have gone back there, but
now here's an interesting point. At the point you went back there, the tribe had control of this land again.
Yeah, they had gotten control back, and they had a couple of incidents where they had actually called a Bigfoot hunter to come, and I don't know what they wanted him to do, but they were afraid. And if you read the history of mystery history of Champe, it's a monster.
It is a Choctaw ogre with mystical powers that eats people. It can cloud your mind, doesn't like humans, will eat you, don't get anywhere near it. Let's consider 2 things before we go on here. First of all, the federal government or the state had control of the land. Was it the state or the feds?
It was the state.
State. So when was the last time you heard of the state just giving back Indian lands to them?
Probably never, other than that.
Except this one. Yeah. And then after the Indians had it for what, a couple years? All of a sudden, they don't want anybody using it?
Well, they tried. They tried to use it for the tribes, benefit.
Right.
It was a great place to have gatherings and pavilions, and it was, just a lot of good things were planned, except for this unplanned thing. And they took it very seriously. Now they didn't know who Tom Biscardi was. Tom Biscardi's got kind of a checkered reputation, but it's not up to me to judge him. He's got as good abilities to go in there and look around as anyone else. He said he found evidence of it. I have the videotape of it. Was on a report from a TV station. They aired it, and they called him twice. After he left, they called him again. and they locked that thing up. They said, nobody's going in there.
So again, first of all, the state has it. They turn it into a park, so they spent some money on it. And then all of a sudden they give it back to the Choctaw. The Choctaw go, oh, great, you got a chunk of land of the park on it. Let's enjoy this. Within short order, they're freaking out Biscardi. And then the next thing you know, they lock it up.
They lock it up because they seen him twice, and it didn't look like there's anything they can do about it.
Yeah, it's SHAMPE.
I mean, this was not a cartoon to them. This was real. And so they made sure that no one fell victim, to the old SHAMPE.
Stephen, thank you. A self-described Bigfoot hunter was in Neshoba County today on a special mission. Tom Biscardi was in Choctaw with his crew at the Choctaw Reservation, investigating reports of a creature being spotted there. He told us his team baited some traps and found a lair of some type there. Biscardi says he has contacted authorities.
As a matter of fact, there are 2 officers that don't want to give their names that have actually seen the creatures themselves. One was camping no more than 2 weeks ago.
And you'll hear more from Biscardi tomorrow night on News Center 11 at 10 o'clock.
Monster.
So, in addition to the presence apparently of SHAMPE there, this is some kind of an ancient mound that's got ceremonial or magical purposes behind it. They like to have big meetings there and stuff. And you've also got the presence of what appears to be a meteor crater that's really near the mound and the entrance to the cave.
Yeah, the mound itself is called the Mother Mound of the Choctaws, and it said that when they came from lands out to the west, and they came bearing the bones of their ancestors, and when they reached this place, they built this mound over the bones of their ancestors. And it allegedly was incorporated into the mound was an entrance into that cave system that came over there at SHAMPE's cave. So now that all that's covered up, that was filled in. But that's the way the story goes, that there was an entrance there at one time.
And some for some mysterious reason got buried. But what you found was the back door, right?
I found the back door, right. And it's involved a meteor, an old impact crater that it had hit hard enough that it had made the rock down deep, up thrust into the above the level of the surrounding ground, and that cave is in between those layers. It's formed. This is back in ancient times, but it caught my attention because I was aware that the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio was also on an ancient meteor impact crater. And when you fracture rock like that, it oftentimes gives off electricity or magnetism. And the shamans, if they sense this magnetism, and they're trained to do that, they will use it to get a vision. And so they build a mound there so that they could get up on top of the mound where it concentrates the magnetism. The mound goes like this, and those lines of force follow that edges of the mound to a place at the top, and it's concentrated there. And they'll beat drums to a certain frequency, and then he'll try for a trance. Sometimes you can't get one if all the conditions aren't right. But the reason for a trance is to get guidance from the Great Spirit. And so that he was responsible for giving them their guidance.
Right.
And he got it from the Great Spirit by getting a trance. And they can use, you can use drugs to do it that would enhance it, or just you can use no drugs and use frequency with the drums, and it's in that magnetism, you've selected a spot where the earth energy, for lack of a better word, it's earth energies concentrate, and so that shaman is able to do that, and that became their mother mound. They were people from out west when they came there, but after they got there, they became the Choctaws.
Right.
That's where the Choctaws had their birth.
I don't suppose they have any kind of a timeline on how long it was since they came from out west to
A long
there.
time ago.
Geologists and people that have been doing study on the North American continent noticed that there were some massive eruptions on the west coast about 6,000 years ago, and have pretty much been able to trace that to several of the tribes that are now in the area where the Choctaw are, and them maybe being one of them, that basically moved east to get away from the horrible conditions that were left after this and kind of wiped out everything, and then resettled more in the Midwest area. And it could be that this is when the Choctaw moved, which again, it'd be like 6,000 years ago. So that's a long time.
The Natchez also moved for that same reason. They moved from out west.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Chief Winnemucca in Nevada, he was one of the Indian chiefs there, not too far from Lovelock Cave, actually. His son was named Natchez. You know, they were all very much well aware of the Natchez tribe. Way out there, they had come across all the way from the Pacific, all the way across, and settled in the lower Mississippi Valley.
Yeah, and if your whole area just got completely destroyed by a massive volcanic eruption, you haven't got much choice. You got to go somewhere else, you know.
Well, you got to consider the courage it took to embark on something like that. They almost certainly felt like there was no other choice.
Yep. And for anybody that wonders what happened about all the tribes in between, well, there weren't any. The natives didn't live on the Great Plains until they got access to horses, because you couldn't effectively make a living there. It was too difficult.
Well, there was a great, I say, movement of Native Americans at one time. So a lot of the people that ended up on the Great Plains came from the East Coast.
Yep.
And there was a confederation of Indian nations. There was 5, and then they added one more, the Iroquois Confederation, and a lot of tribes were run out of that territory up there and forced to go down the Mississippi. The tribes around here didn't originate around here. They originated up along Ohio, further up.
Yep.
They had what they call the Ofogula, which they call them their dog. The name means dog people. They were like a temporarily living down here. They had forgotten, a long time ago, the things that caused it, but they had come down here and in assimilation. They lived pretty close to the Koroas and the Yazoos, and the Yazoo, one of their, I hate to call him, but he's a Mingo. They call him a chief. He was a Mingo and a shaman, and he was aware that his people had come from somewhere else, and so he went on a journey to find where the source of his people were, where they originally came from. And he was the only Native American to see both coasts, Pacific and Atlantic. In his first trip, he went to Niagara Falls and on out to St. Lawrence to the Atlantic. and he ran into some Iroquois, and he was able to communicate with them because he knew some broken Huron. Well, at that time, he had never been up there. So he was going for the first time. So where did the Huron come from? You don't just born knowing it. It was part of the old Yazoo language, I figure.
Could be.
And that it kind of pointed toward the Hurons as the source for the Yazoo originally. But he came back down, and 4 or 5 years later, he went back up to where the St. Louis would be, and then took off and made his way all the way across to the Pacific. And when he came back, he recounted his journey to the French, who wrote it down in a journal, and they had a copy of it. Lewis and Clark did when they went west. They weren't going blind. They were taking Monaco Ape's account with them. He told them they knew who to expect on what river. You know, he had actually lived with several Indian tribes for short periods of time and learned their language, and they had that account.
How cool is that?
Yeah. So you know, his history is almost a little incomplete sometimes. They knew that this guy had made that same trip, and they gave him. They had a copy of it. He told them in great detail, and they wrote it. French wrote everything down.
Yeah.
And they had that journal, and they gave it. They made a copy and gave it to Lewis and Clark. It was in their hands when they left.
They came through Montana and ran into moose elk that they shot one and ate.
Before they ever did it, Monaco Ape did it.
Yep. Well, you know, there's other interesting stories about that. A lot of the tribes on the continent are not from. They didn't start out there, basically. Even the Chippewa in northern Minnesota, they've got a legend about how they came from the upper East Coast. And their medicine man had a vision that they were supposed to leave and go west. And he didn't know how far. The only information he had is they had to keep going west until they ran into the place where the food was growing on the water. And when they got to northern Minnesota, guess what was growing in all those swamps up there? Wild rice. So they stayed there.
That's not that's not something that we think about in terms of guidance, but it was the way they did things.
Yep. And if you go back far enough, it seems like a lot of the tribes kind of well, even according to the scientists too, coming down between the ice sheets, they would have come down kind of in the central to eastern side of the Rockies. There was a big open area there where they could get through it, and then kind of distributed it out from there. So kind of originating in Alaska and coming down in various directions from there as the ice sheet melted. That's what the scientists say. If you talk to the Navajo, it's just the opposite. They showed up here, chased the giants off the continent, left a rear guard in Alaska, and then came back down and repopulated again. So whoever you want to believe. But as far as the SHAMPE thing, what was it like being in the cave of SHAMPE?
It was strange. I was by myself, and it's kind of narrow going in. You go in, you take a hard right, and it descends. And I kind of did a belly crawl, and turning around was kind of difficult, but I did. I filmed back up toward the opening. The wall to my right there was polished. It was buffed out to be shiny from traffic. And I could hear water dripping further down. But I didn't even have a flashlight. I just had my phone. I took as good a video as I could and good pictures as I could. But you know, when you're out there by yourself and you're down in that cave, you
And
know,
going into Champe's cave by yourself, I know you had like at least a 44 Magnum, potentially a flamethrower, some grenades, magic sword, something.
no, didn't have any of that.
Oh God.
I didn't have anything.
What did I tell you about
I-
sneaking into ogre caves by yourself without any
Maybe I
weapons?
just caught him while he wasn't home or something.
Good
I don't know,
God.
but it you know, after talking to you about some of the beliefs there, you know, of the Choctaws and other peoples, made me think twice about, you know, I probably won't ever do anything like that again. I have regrets about going in there, you know. Yeah, it could have worked out to be
You could have disappeared, and the next thing you know,
I
Dave
could-
Pilates has got you in
right.
his book.
I've been in David Pilates' book. Don't know what happened to him.
Creepy,
It-
creepy.
Yeah, you can look at the video and tell this creepy place. And they had these nice public pavilions there and everything. And nobody was using them because they were scared.
That's what I'm saying. They just gave you a big chunk of land with a park on it. Everything's improved. You got pavilions, bathrooms, the whole thing. In short order, they're like, nope, chain this place off. Nobody's going in here. Well, something's going on if they're doing that.
Well, I mean, it's instead of benefiting the Choctaws, it cost them. You know, they end up having to pay Tom Viscardi to come back. You know, then they had to buy chains to lock it up. They had a building down there by the mound, and you know, a little place like a little museum thing or something. They tore that thing down. It's gone.
You know, if they wanted an investigator there to check into it or whatever it was, then why didn't they just call Todd Standing? Because he's got more guts and common sense. He would have went and just hung out in the cave until Champe showed up, and you know.
Yeah, well, they're both kind of dangerous. No, I'm just kidding. I know Tom. Todd, he's all right. He's no Shampy.
No, Todd's got lots of balls, but he pushes it too far, and you know, sometimes they throw logs and boulders at him and stuff. Todd, when they're doing that, you're doing something wrong and you're making them angry. Fairly obvious, dude.
Well, every year in August, the Choctaws meet there from far and wide, and they march around the mound. The mound, if you look at the mound from the air, it's not a typical mound. It's kind of rectangular, kind of a loaf-like, and it's got a side that's been shaved off to have a display on it. And you can even see what the display was. What they would do is get these white shells from out of the river there, and then they would put those white shells and outline a geoglyph. And they had it was a bird without outwardly extending wings, and the tail was in a fan shape, which is what owls do when they come in to grab something. You know, so
And you can see this from the air. I mean, you
can see it from the air.
Yeah.
The reason why is because those shells change the pH in the soil, and the grass grows differently wherever there was shell. And the grass is still growing, showing that outline faintly.
Yeah, and you can see it. What do you think that is? Do you think that's supposed to be a thunderbird or a giant owl or?
I don't think it's a thunderbird. I think it's an owl. That's what I think, because they had owl cults back then, and it may have something to do with Shampy. An owl was not a
benevolent and friendly.
No, it was a bad
creature.
omen. It was a bad. There were some cases where sometimes they were good, but mostly it was bad.
Yeah.
and it's kind of pointed over toward the rear entrance to Shampe's Cavern.
Oh
You know,
God.
it's kind of pointed in that direction.
Yeah. It's looking
Uh,
over there. That's where you don't want to go. So here's another thing that brings to mind. So if they're doing a ceremony there once a year, is that pretty much the only time they're using this area?
it probably is. It probably is. Now they had it the fence when I was there at the mound. Anybody could go there. You could. They had some stairs that went up to the top, but now they've got all of it fenced off, and they got a sign saying, you know, this is sacred land. You know, and the stairs have started. The mound has started to wash around those stairs. You know, where they put the pilings in.
Right.
And it ends up those stairs were not a good idea.
Yeah. So they're getting a bit rickety, is what you're saying at this
Yeah,
point?
well, yeah, then it damages the mound.
Well,
The-
that
tho-
too.
those mounds are made. They seem like they're not just piled up dirt. They put layers of different types of dirt, and it's engineered. And when they get through with it, it won't wash. It'll be there for thousands of years without washing.
Layering with clay.
Right. They use clay. They'll go down into the bottom of that river and find the swamp part where there's water sitting still, and then they'll get the clay that's settled and get out there, and they'll put a layer of that in there, a layer of something else, maybe some sand, then cap that over with more clay. So that rain, just a regular rain, will not affect it.
No.
Did you see the moat?
Yeah,
The
that
moat
whole
around-
thing looks just like super creepy. You just keep piling creepy on creepy on creepy with this place.
Yeah, that's not a normal thing right there either for a mound.
No.
And it's a mother mound, whatever mother mound implies.
So was the
And-
moat full of water and like crocodiles at some point or something?
I don't
Why
know,
did they
but
have
you
a
know,
boat there?
the Choctaws have the perfect right to ask of other people not to come on it if they don't want on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
As long as it's their land. And probably better there, don't go crawling into the cave and poke the bear or crawling into the cave and poke the SHAMPE.
I was lucky I was come out without any problems, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it again.
No, don't push your luck, basically, the rule on that one. You're lucky you got away with it once. Don't do it again. Of course, you did almost do it again. You went back there once, another time, but you didn't actually go in and you had somebody with you.
No, I didn't.
So here is the.
That's it for me, but especially after talking to you about the nature of SHAMPE.
Yeah, good thing to avoid. Don't let them know you exist, and especially don't piss them off. So yeah, that was quite the epic trip there. I mean, that really took me by surprise. You went where? Really? Oh my God.
Well, this was historically an important place, and that this I know that they wouldn't have gone through the trouble to lock it up and all of that if they weren't taking it seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially like you said, in light of the fact that they already had it built up like an improved park.
Yeah.
You just get a park handed to you. There's got to be a really strong reason to just close the area off and go, nope, nobody's going in here. Wow.
I don't blame them.
Yeah, well, considering all the legendary I've heard about that particular cryptid, yeah, that's what I would do too. I might just try and encase the whole area in concrete, but they probably couldn't afford that. But so, anything else we wanted to mention before we get going here?
I don't know.
I think we pretty much got all of it.
I done reached about the end of my energy level.
Yeah, me too. I haven't ate yet today, so I want to eat at some point. But before we go, everybody remember that MK Davis does have a YouTube channel, and he posts stuff there fairly regularly, and it is called Greenwave 2010 FB instead of MK Davis's Marvelous Bigfoot Breakdown channel or something like that. Greenwave 2010 FB. So go sub his channel if you're not already. He's got about a zillion videos that you can look through, all kinds of cool breakdowns and stuff that he's done on like every kind of Bigfoot video that he's gotten his hands on, including PG film, Freeman film, the tire fight in Texas, and the giant chick breaking it up, and all kinds of cool stuff that you guys can go look at, which I heavily encourage you to do so. He's got quite the catalog of excellent videos for you to spend some time perusing. And
don't forget my WordPress.
And he has
site.
WordPress. Tell us about it.
It's WordPress thedavisreport.wordpress.com. And I've got a lot of really good stuff over there too. I hadn't posted there in a while, but it's got quite an archive.
Right on.
So
yeah, everybody go check that out.
You can spend some time over there if you enjoy that kind of thing.
Excellent. Do you have Facebook group?
No, I don't have a group. I just have my Facebook page.
Okay.
MK Davis.
You can find my MK Davis Facebook page there too then.
Yeah.
I actually have a group, Montana Bigfoot Project. If you've had a Bigfoot sighting or if you want to post some video or pictures, you won't get ridiculed, go over to that group. We've got really evil mods over there that won't put up with any shenanigans from any trolls. So you're not going to get ridiculed if you post anything over there. Montana Bigfoot Project, that is my presence on Facebook. And I'm also on World Bigfoot Central on MeWe. And you can find my videos on YouTube and Rumble and BitChute and Odyssey. And I'm on X. If you're on X, come on over, say hi. Send me a contact request or whatever they call it in X land. The land of the X, not lax. But thanks so much for being on the show again, MK. You know how much we love having you on here, and I always have such a blast talking to you. And wow, a lot of mind-boggling stuff to share with everybody tonight. And really appreciate you coming on, and especially in Thanksgiving, after you had your Thanksgiving dinner, taking some time out to come and share with everybody. Really appreciate it, man.
Oh, really? Oh, well, thank you for having me on. I always have a good time when I come over here.
And for those that wonder, yes, we do actually talk to each other when we're not doing shows because we have lots of fun stuff to share all the time. So everybody else, I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving, got to share it with your family, hugged them a couple times just in case. You never know when they might not be around anymore. Take advantage of the time that you've got with your family. And everybody else, don't forget to follow all of the usual.
Kind of looking at it from a distance, you see it's a remnants of an old crater. So you see this eruption of rock coming up. And the Pearl River is just on the right, and the Pearl River actually comes out of this crater. So this cave system goes down into that area where the Pearl comes out. So from the very beginnings of the Pearl, SHAMPE or Bigfoot or whatever the Choctaws name they have for it, is immediately along the Pearl River if it comes out of this cave. And if it comes out of the cave and goes along the Pearl, and you follow that Pearl on down, it's solid woods on either side. It's a wild river. You end up in Honey Island, where the river water rests, and things go bump in the night. I thank you for your time.
Everyone, safety first, last, and always. Pay it forward. Don't be mean to people if you don't have to be. Don't flip off the mountain giant. Don't poke Dogman with a stick. Don't punt the puck, would you? And for God's sake, whatever you do not hug the Wookiee.